So music, right? Music is your focus with your program. And so can you talk a little bit about why music is such a helpful and effective tool for dismantling white supremacy in both a curriculum and the overall culture that we live in?
Yeah, hold on, let me fetch my babies. Hey guys, guys, y'all are too loud. Okay, thanks.
That's the smile.
They're all grade
That's
school.
minding
They're
business.
just um so I think a really big part of some of this work is around the idea of counter narrative and storytelling and retelling these made up stories that our society has about how we were created and like the American ethos and our place in the world and what our values are. And music is such an effective storyteller. And so those stories can be told in a way that um, gives a different level of emotion or even palatability, just based on how, something can slide in a much more subversive way. But they can also be sources of connection when one hears other stories that match their own, and you are realizing you're not the only one out there.
Right.
And, we always talk about the multicultural aspect of music. And I think when multiculturalism is done correctly, it can be an amazing point of exchange in general, things to grow from. And music has everything in it. So when I'm teaching a lesson, I'm not just going to say, here's a song and we're going to do a song. I'm going to say, here's the history of the song, here's the place it came from. When they perform the song, here's what's happening culturally around it. Every educator doesn't do that, but for me, that's very important. And so, every other subject you have is encompassed in teaching holistically about musical traditions.
Cool. So they really kind of get the full experience and a cultural appreciation
Hmm.
from the experience of learning the song and playing the song. Cool.
Yeah, and also, we get to teach about histories of protest and resistance. And it's really, really powerful to understand the stories of resistance that are in so many musical forms, even in things that one doesn't necessarily attach to resistance because lyrically it might not be saying something. It might be, here's a Black form of music from early American history that's expressing joy.
Hmm.
And Black joy at this time is complete resistance, right?
Right, right.
So there's so many forms of that are expressed when we're looking at music.
Okay, good, good, good. With the onset of COVID and distance learning, a light has been shown on the inequities in education, specifically in access to laptops and Wi-Fi. These inequities often follow racial patterns. How can we have more equity in online access to education?
There's this idea of universal design that I've heard about fairly recently, and it applied to education. This is very oversimplified, but the idea is that if you are designing something for, let's say, like easier access, that should just be the norm. It shouldn't be the extra thing you do when you realize someone doesn't have access. And so I think we need to implement ideas of universal design. There's an amazing scholar, Dr. Bettina Love, who I heard an interview about her talking about the hit of COVID, and she's like, COVID happens, and all of a sudden we have money for computers. We could have done that the whole time, like keep that same energy when we're in the building.
Right.
And so I think we need to really think about it that way. Like, we know we have bandwidth disparities in neighborhoods, and we know we have access to equipment issues and funding going here and there. And we just need to take a look at like, what is something that's universal that is going to work? I'm a little hesitant in thinking that way because there's this idea of interest convergence, like a lot of things that have happened that seem like altruistic equity pushes have really been when white folks feel that there's some value for them or something to gain for them. And it doesn't really work out well when it's like that. So when we think of things being universal, the motivation behind it can't be, oh, now I feel there's something I can get out of it too. It really has to be the understanding of the the entitlement that all of our students have
Right,
to this access.
right. And I like what you said about universal design. I've been learning about it a little myself as a fellow teacher. And,
Yeah.
just to kind of give like the just like oversimplified version of it is it's the idea that when you design a lesson or a curriculum, you try to account for every possible student you might encounter with their levels of ability or low abilities, or their levels of the ways that they think or ways that they learn, ways that levels of kind of privilege versus poverty, and just trying to kind of make every lesson as inclusive as possible so that no matter who the student is, they are given something that they can learn at the level that they're at. And
Yeah, you don't have to be additive on the back end.
sorry?
You don't have to be additive on the back end.
Right,
You
exactly.
design that way on the front end. Yeah,
Bake
yeah.
the cake, if you will. So let's see.